Good morning, everybody. We made it. We made it to Friday. I hope this day goes fast because I'm telling you, sometimes a Friday is just like a damn Monday. Let's see who made it in. I was chatting earlier, but I might have missed a few people, like I missed Jay Lord. Hello, Jay. Nikita says, Good morning from Missouri. Well, good morning from Oklahoma, my friend. Angela just made it in. Shannon's in here. Kamari, hello. Big Boy, Lee Pepper, Peaky, Pale Rider, Jakey, I missed you. What is going on? Izzy just made it in. What's everybody going to do this weekend? Nothing too exciting for me. I have this new recipe I'm going to try. It's chicken, bacon, cream cheese, spinach, onion, lasagna noodles, sun-dried tomatoes. I can't talk. Sounds real fat-free, does it not? It's got a lot of cheese, garlic, the whole 9 yards. So I'm excited to try that. Caitlin said, hi from Brooklyn. Well, hello. How's it going in Brooklyn? How is it going? Kat just said you had me at bacon. Hello, Canadians. Hello, hello. We have a lot of new people in here. Stick around. Please stick around. So I hear there's going to be a cold snap next week for a lot of people for spring break. That sucks. That sucks big time. Big time. I don't like that at all. I'm ready to start complaining about the heat, but that's just me. The rain doesn't bother me too bad. The tornadoes don't really part my hair unless they're real close. I don't want them too close to me. Other than that, I'm just ready to start bitching about the heat. That's how I am. Kat said, yes, we have had enough of the cold. That is for sure. All right. So every now and then we do a week recap show. I don't like to cross cases. I don't like to do shows where we're talking about 4 or 5 different cases. But I don't know that I'm going to be able to do a show over the weekend. So I thought we would do a week recap because there's too many things that need to be talked about before we do our weekend thing. 2 Boston moms said we are still freezing and tons of snow. 2 Boston moms sent me a picture of her snow. My face about fell off. I was like, 2 Boston moms can keep that snow. Too bad. Love you to death, 2 Boston moms, but I don't want your snow. So we're going to start out with Madalina. I'm going to go through comments that have been left about Madalina, Bushy, a case we've only been talking about in Discord and the Facebook group, and that's a case about Nathan. I'll have to go through the case with you and catch you up because it's a crazy thing. And of course, the Clintons of South Carolina, the Murdaughs. More stuff is going on with that. We're going to skim over that as well. So bear with me. If people come in, if they pop in and they don't know what we're talking about, if somebody could just catch them up, that'd be great. If not, I have to stop the show a million times. Because these shows, whew. By the way, if you're looking at the thumbnail, in the left bottom corner, that is some magnificent artwork that Cat did of my cat, OJ. I had to use that to cover up Fire Crotch's crotch. Literally. OJ came in handy. Okay, I'm starting out today with Madalina because it's driving me crazy what is going on in this case. Nothing has ever sat right with me. Nothing's ever looked right. And I think there is way more to it than they're letting on. Seems that Mama B thought the same thing because Mama B says I got to get my note. I got to put my glasses on my face. Mama B says, this is why they wanted anyone with information to contact the U.S. consulate and the FBI. The FBI has been neck deep in this from the get. We have other cases of missing children and people scream and yell. They're like, why aren't the FBI involved? They probably are in some capacity. But for them to be in the thick of it, from what I'm seeing, it has to be a stranger abduction, or what it seems to be here, there's got to be some trafficking going on. To be more specific, T3 trafficking. Mama B said, I knew there was more to this case than that she was just missing. Mom and dad and stepdad harmed her. I never felt a child had been trafficked until this case ever. Mama B said from the get about Madalina, she said, I never say this, she said, but I think she's been trafficked. I think you're right. Elaine Cordella said, I can't put my finger on it, but something is way off with this story. Oh, it is. It is. Let me just put this little snippet up from Cornelius, North Carolina. Put my Dollar Tree specs on. Newly obtained search warrants reveal Madalina Cojocari's mother asked a distant relative whose name is like Octavia or something like that. He's over in Moldova. If he would help with smuggling her and Madalina away. Well, there's nothing to smuggle. You send her a plane ticket, you get her an Uber, and you get her out of the country. She also told him that she was in a bad relationship with her husband, Christopher Palmatier, and that she wanted a divorce. This is a new warrant that was leaked out. Now, she's not real slick. Let me tell you why. She had this conversation December 2nd. Madalina has been missing since before Thanksgiving. Seems to me that she was covering her tracks and she had already trafficked her. That's what I believe. According to the warrants, phone records reviewed by the investigators revealed extensive communication on December 2nd with that relative. That person's phone records revealed multiple calls to phone numbers belonging to unidentified targets involved in an ongoing T3 drug narcotic trafficking investigation. So I'm like Grandma Bunny. Trafficked or hidden? What the hell is going on? Ongoing T3 drug trafficking investigation. Who the hell readily has those phone numbers available? Somebody that was getting down to business and they wanted to sell that little girl is what it sounds like to me. It's horrible. I think they leaked this warrant out a few days ago just to get some more heat put on these people. I really do. I think when Diana Cojocari was seen out by, what's it called, Lookout Mountain or whatever, I think she was meeting somebody. Let's look at what the clip says.
New here at 5, the mother of a missing North Carolina girl asked a relative to help smuggle them. That's according to some newly released court documents. This is all tied to the case of 11-year-old Madalina Cojocari, who was last seen at her home in Cornelius on November 23rd. According to these new documents, the girl's mother, Diana Cojocari, asked a relative if he would help her and Madalina get away from home. The relative said Diana told him she was in a bad relationship with her husband, Christopher Palmatier, and wanted a divorce. Both Palmatier and Diana Cojocari are charged with failing to report the disappearance of a child to law enforcement.
And Kamari says, why isn't Diana talking though? Because Diana's guilty. Diana is guilty as the day is long. She is guilty. She made this phone call to cousin Octavian on December 2nd. Madalina had been missing since before Thanksgiving. The school caught on to something was not right. And what was it? Mid-December, before anybody was any the wiser, that this little girl had not been seen. The only good news about this, and that's really tough, is that she could be alive. Just have to make a mental note that in these cases, when the FBI is neck deep in it, believe what they say. I know there was a lot of arguing back and forth about the case of Michael Vaughn, and I would say to people, besides Tyler not being Batman, that didn't ring a bell with anybody, but I said the FBI is very involved in this case. The agent from the FBI, he is in the office in Fruitland, Idaho. He's not just making a Zoom call once a month, he's right there. As we know, Michael is the victim of a stranger abduction. So in this case, and I put the video on the channel, please go check it out. The FBI's been neck deep in this. Kat says smuggling is a European word for trafficking. Thank you, Kat. Tammy said, this child 1.5 from me from the beginning. I knew this was bad when I did a background check. I asked if she had relatives here. People said no. No. Had it not been for the school sounding the alarms and not believing Diana's lies, when they said, you show up here, you produce Madalina, she showed up by herself and goes, oh, she's been missing. She's been missing. Christopher came back from Michigan and said, where's Madalina? Diana said, I don't know. Where's Madalina? He goes, are you hiding her? Diana says, no. Are you? So they're going back and forth talking about this child as if they had lost the car keys. Have you seen my keys? No. Well, where were they last time you looked? Oh, I thought they were in the kitchen. I don't know. We'll check the kitchen. I did check the kitchen. I can't find the keys. Oh, okay. And that's how they're talking about missing Madalina. Then from there, Diana's really laying on the charm. Now she's telling this cousin of hers she's in a bad relationship, bad marriage. But people saw her and Christopher around town acting like newlyweds. I don't believe this mother. I believe this mother was covering her tracks. I think she's smart enough to know that eventually somebody would catch on to Madalina being missing. Let me look at what day December 2nd was. Hang on. Today is March 10th. December 2nd was a Friday. Okay, so Madalina, November 24th was Thanksgiving. She went missing before Thanksgiving. So on the 2nd, which was a Friday, makes me wonder if she didn't start making those calls to her cousin because the school was really coming down on them. And yes, the parents are still in custody. That's another wild one. Why are they not out? They each have a bond. It's not a small bond, don't get me wrong. They have a house. I would think Christopher would use the equity in the home to get the hell out of there, to get out of jail. I don't know. I can't figure it out. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. None. Good morning, Alicia. So I don't know. I really don't know if she truly has been trafficked, if her mother truly did do something with her and take her out to that mountain. I don't know. It's just not anything I've ever seen before. And it's really driving me insane. I mean, really driving me insane. It's just freaking nuts. All right. Now I got to take this one lightly, loosely, whatever. Idaho 4. You know, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about. I hate saying Idaho 4, but you know. Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Madison. I had a lot of comments in regards to the last show we did about Idaho, where I was talking about that freaking goofball when he got arrested. He was taking his trash and putting it into Ziploc bags. We also know he didn't throw his trash into his own trash, he put it in the neighbor's trash. They still couldn't find anything of his per se because they used his dad's DNA. But I had a lot of people saying to give him a break. They said he's OCD, that's all. That's what they said to me. They said he's wired differently. He's just OCD. A lot of people with OCD do that. I thought I was being punked. I really was. Look, I know he's not wired like the rest of us. I know he's out there. I'm sure he is a little OCD. Was he OCD before the murders? He's also the subject of a probable cause affidavit that alleges that he killed 4 people. He's not just wired differently. That allegation makes it all crazy. Let's look at this real quick.
You put all of this evidence together, and there's a lot of it. You read all of it out like that. What does it tell us about Kohberger? Let's bring in Robin Dreek, retired FBI special agent and head of the counterintelligence NCE behavioral analysis program, and Katie Cherkosky. She is a criminal defense attorney and a former federal prosecutor. Thank you both so much for being with us. Robin, I want to start with you. You heard me list out all of those items, everything we know, and it's come in bits and pieces, so it's interesting to lay it all out like that. Obviously, a lot we still don't know, but based on that, what do you make of Kohberger's criminal profile at this point?
He always strikes me from the very first time he was arrested that here's an individual that has studied this from books, and he has taken all his knowledge from research and no practical experience. And so it looks like he put together this project of his, and he gave himself an assignment for murder. And so that's what all this evidence looks like, is that he accumulated all these things, and the things he executed in the murder, like they can't find the murder weapon or the clothes he was actually wearing, he disposed of those because that's what the book said to do. Everything else that he accumulated, he held on to, maybe to be disposed of later or to be used in the future. But it strikes me as someone really conducting an experiment of an assignment he gave himself.
Yeah, interesting. And he had that survey at one point, which was like an experiment in its own way. Robin, what do you make of, and I'm sort of fascinated by this, the book that they took and some significance to page 118? What do you think that could mean?
That can be absolutely anything, because, and you said it earlier on, when they have the search warrant, they can't seize everything. They got to have a reasonable connection from the seizing agent's perspective of something that could be tied to the crime. And so if you have a book that is used in his field of study, it could be used and highlighted for something he was researching for school. It could also be something he's actually referencing for something he's trying to conduct in his life. It makes it challenging for a search team because it could have a lot of overlap, which is a little unusual, but it could be either or.
And it's something, like you said, it has to be relevant. At least they have to think it's relevant to the murder investigation. So that's why I'm so fascinated by that. I wonder what it is. Katie, what do you make of all of this? What are you honing in on when we list out all of the evidence? And as a defense attorney, I mean, it just seems like this guy is getting harder and harder to defend with all of this stuff that continues to come out.
Well, that's absolutely the case. And I think if I was his defense attorney, I would tell him, and again, I believe in the presumption of innocence here, but if he has any hope of avoiding the death penalty, I think that he needs to take a plea deal and express remorse as soon as possible. Any defense.
I really wish News Nation would get off of it. I'm so sick of hearing about these plea deals. Come on, do they really think they're going to give him a plea deal? Could you just imagine any of these families waking up, having their coffee, and they see on News Nation, it's not on the Day Show or anything like that anymore, that a plea deal was offered to him? There's not any damn plea deal. Where's this woman been? They've added a second attorney. This is state money. This was approved. Somebody must have a sneaking suspicion that they're going to ask for the death penalty, because they have added another attorney to help his attorney, who is also qualified in death penalty cases. We haven't even heard about the warrant yet for the car. I think there's a lot in the probable cause that came out at the end of December, early January, that's not 100% adding up, but it doesn't have to. It's the probable cause. It's the weakest evidence that they have. We know that. That in correlation with what they came up with in Pennsylvania. I have a feeling when they go through the car, which they're doing now or have already, you can't explain it away if you find any blood in that car that, let's say, belongs to Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, or Madison. And that being said, we still have to wait till June to where they pour it out in prelim. And that's still not going to be everything. They said, 995 pages of discovery were given to his defense team. All we know about is some DNA on a sheath laying by Maddie, a footprint, Dylan seeing bushy eyebrows, and stuff like that. That's pretty much it. Hello, Justin. Thank you. Justin's been a member for 9 months. Thank you, Justin. So that's all we know. And that's their weakest evidence. You group it with everything else. It's getting harder and harder to defend. That's for sure.
Defense attorney is going to look at evidence that's seized and determine if there was any sort of issue with a search warrant, because it does have to be proper under the law. There were some pretextual stops here, the traffic stops that are a bit questionable in terms of whether they had proper basis to stop him and collect evidence and DNA that they then use to supplement their affidavits to get these other items. So any defense attorney is going to try to see if there's any way to keep some of this evidence out. If they can't, then the next thing you have to do is try to present any other reasonable explanation for why you might have things that seem suspicious, like gloves, black clothing, etc., but maybe have an innocent explanation of some sort. But in this case, with the circumstantial evidence mounting against him and all the physical evidence at that, I don't know that there's much fight to be had for the underlying crime.
It's interesting, Katie, you bring up plea deal to avoid the death penalty. But with all of this evidence and one family at least already saying that they want the death penalty, and it seems, at least from what we know, that the prosecution has somewhat of a pretty solid case, why would they even be considering a plea deal? I mean, do you think they would even consider it, Katie?
Well, in terms of a plea deal, I'm not necessarily saying that they would agree to that. It's more a matter of Kohberger trying to mitigate his ultimate sentence, because if he pleads guilty, whether he has a deal or not, there still has to be a determination as to whether he gets the death penalty. And if he expresses remorse and there's more of an explanation up front, then that's going to probably be his best shot to avoid the death penalty if that's his goal in all of this. So it's not necessarily a deal. It's just a decision to plead guilty, what they call a naked plea, essentially, without any protection, but to do so to get some sort of potential benefit, some sort of leniency in terms of sentencing.
Interesting.
Thank you for watching.
Her in that beige shirt. She's on vacation. I hope while she's on vacation, she finds a red shirt. Even black. Black looks nice on people too. I wish they'd get off this plea deal shit. All they're doing is stirring up the families. That's all they're doing. Yes, most everything they have is circumstantial. Does anybody think it's a big deal they found dark clothing, a gun, or anything like that in his house? Big whoop. I've got dark clothing. I've got a gun. But this making sure that our trash isn't anywhere where someone can find it. There's more to it than that. But no, the dark clothing, no one cares. But now if the dark clothing goes back to the marshal's receipt that for some reason they took, or the Walmart receipt that for some reason they took into evidence, then that might be something. It's going to be interesting either way, but I just wish they would get off this plea deal thing. That's so stupid. They just do that to stir people up. That's what they do. And then, as we know, in the true crime community, and it's sad to say, there are a handful of people that the American educational system has failed badly. Okay, they have failed very badly. They have failed these people because they will take something like this plea deal and they run crazy. They can't wait to get to their Facebook groups and say, I hear he's getting a plea deal. And it's wildfire. It is wildfire. And it drives me insane. It's crazy. All right. Let's get to this because I cannot wrap my mind around this. Nathan Millard. Now, we have only talked about this in the Facebook group and in Discord. Nathan went on a business trip. He is from Georgia. He went on a business trip to Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is known to has some bad areas, okay? Not gonna lie. Great town. I love Baton Rouge. Well, his wife couldn't get a hold of him. And she alerted the authorities. Now, I'm not saying this so much in conjunction with this case. Just word to the wise. If an adult in your life goes missing, be prepared to tell the police everything about them, especially about any habits they might have. If the adult in your life goes missing and they like to drink or are a heavy drinker, make sure you tell the police that so they know to check the bars near the hotel. They check the liquor stores, stuff like that. If they're known to dabble in the drugs, make sure you tell them that too. Because then they know also where to look. All right. Before I get to the comments and the clip, probably have to do the clip first. This is a head shaker for sure. The police are saying there is no foul play. No longer is he missing. He was found wrapped in plastic and wrapped in a rug, carpet. They're saying no foul play. He wasn't shot, wasn't stabbed, wasn't beat to death. So they're saying accidental overdose. Who's saying it was an accident? You don't even know who he was hanging around. He could have been slipped something. He didn't roll himself in plastic or carpet. And if the dude you're partying with took a little too much of something, you dump him off at the ER. You don't wrap him in carpet and plastic and put him in a dumpster. Or you call 911 yourself, right? That's what you do. Bamaskin said, I love it when I'm home alone, rolling up in plastic like a taco. Said no one ever. Exactly. He didn't roll himself up. But they're saying no foul play. Tampering with a corpse is foul AF. Come on. However, the person around you died, you don't go, they're dead. What do I do? Yeah, there's a dumpster over there. Yeah, help me roll this guy up. We'll go throw him away. No. That's foul. That's foul. And if he had a drug habit before, then he had a drug habit when he went to Baton Rouge. How do we know it was accidental? He didn't accidentally overdose when he was home. Let's look at this clip.
Tonight with the latest on this Georgia man, Nathan Millard, found dead in Baton Rouge. His son tells us they believe he died from an overdose. Baton Rouge police today pieced together a timeline of his disappearance leading up to the discovery of his body now just yesterday. Our brand was at that news conference where we learned a few new details. Bree, what do we got? What did police think happened in this case?
So police do not suspect foul play in the Nathan Millard's case, but they do believe that someone or even a group of people chose to drop off Millard's body in a vacant lot off Scenic Highway. The preliminary autopsy reports from the coroner's office show no internal nor external trauma. I've been in touch with family members throughout the day who...
Okay. You find him wrapped up in carpet and plastic. Elliott said, unless Louisiana heroin is significantly stronger or it's tainted with more fentanyl than one he's used to, yeah, he had the habit in Georgia. He knows his limits. He gets to Baton Rouge and we have an accidental overdose. It's an accident, right? Nobody calls 911. Nobody just dumps him off at the ER or calls 911 and leaves him laying there, whatever. But we wrap him in plastic, we wrap him in carpet, and we dump him. He didn't accidentally overdose when he was in Georgia, but he gets to the Rouge and he accidentally overdoses. They say no foul play, as in he wasn't murdered. Okay, fine. How do you know he wasn't slipped something? How do you know? How do you know? Somebody could have possibly slipped him something because they wanted to rob him or whatever. I don't know. He was found with all his stuff. But somebody dying on you kind of changes the game. So you wrap him up, you throw him in the dumpster. Seems pretty damn foul to me. Really foul. Tampering with a corpse is no joke. Concealing a crime, not reporting a death, that's pretty foul.
Who say they believe it is likely going to be an accidental overdose. Just hours ago, police detailed how they traced Millard's whereabouts the night before he was reported missing. Watching surveillance video, police say Nathan does not seem under distress walking downtown. Again, there's no indication of foul play, but they do not believe he died in that lot where he was found. Rather, police believe someone moved him during dumping him there. Police still do not have any evidence revealing how Millard got from downtown to the vacant lot where he was found wrapped in a rug.
Well, Dead people can't walk. So they know somebody moved him. Dead people don't wrap themselves in plastic or carpet either. People that are alive normally don't do it either unless they're into something really kinky. Kamari accidentally overdosed and wrapped himself like a burrito and dumped himself. No, I don't think that happened. I don't think that happened. If the way that we set the bar for not foul play is just they weren't murdered, we're in a lot of trouble. And it happens all the time, then we're in a lot of trouble. We're in a lot of trouble. That's all I can say. We do not move corpses. We do not wrap up corpses and throw them in parking lots. We do not wrap up corpses and throw them in dumpsters as if we're doing someone a favor. This is disgusting. Tiffany said he bought some bad drugs. Every city has different drugs. There's no telling what he got a hold of, thinking it was the same he was used to. You just can't go around buying drugs from random people. That should be a t-shirt. Listen to what Tiffany's saying. When you go to a new city, you can't just start taking their drugs. Nope, gotta be a little more careful than that. Because from what I'm understanding, he had a drug habit. So he knows his limit. And if the foul play they're referring to is just murder, like I said, we're setting the bar way too low. We don't wrap up corpses for any reason under the sun and just throw them away. Savannah Spurlock. Yeah. She left with those 3 guys and she was murdered. She was murdered. That guy's in jail for murder. What does Savannah Spurlock have to do with this? He murdered her. They're not suggesting this guy was murdered. Very, very laissez-faire attitude we have about these things anymore. Not us, but you know what I mean.
Police did not feel the need to bring the entire rug into evidence. They went on to say everything that needed to be collected was collected.
Do you guys find it odd that the police didn't feel the need to take the rug into evidence? I would be wanting to know everything about this transaction. That's just me, though. I'm not the detective. I'm not a detective. Also, if this was my loved one that I've been looking for, I wouldn't be cool with the whole nothing to see here. He just took too much. We just think the people panicked. They just panicked and threw him and just threw him out. No, I don't think, I wouldn't be happy about that at all. I'd be pissed. I'd be like, what do you mean? They could have called 911 and saved him. They could have pumped his effing stomach. Hospitals do wonderful things, you know? Lone Wolf said law enforcement has a video of a man at the bus station using his card twice and they claim no foul play. Lone Wolf says hell to the no. I agree, Lone Wolf. Hell to the no. Barb says, where's his family members? They're in Georgia. But the people that say this is not a big deal and it happens every day, do you want it to happen to you? How would you feel if you couldn't get a hold of your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, and you had a detective saying it happens every day? They overdosed, so we wrap them in rugs and we throw them into the dumpster. We call it not foul. We call it not foul around here. I'd lose my shit. I got to go back a little bit.
That needed to be collected was collected.
Whenever we go to a crime scene, our detectives and our crime scene investigators, they confer with each other on what needs to be taken and what doesn't. And they didn't deem it necessary for them to take the entire rug.
Chief Murphy Paul and the director of the Downtown Development District say that the downtown area is still a safe area despite this situation. Police say the investigation is still ongoing and they are still waiting on an official report on the cause of death for Nathan Millard from the coroner's office. Greg?
All right, Bree, thank you for that. We appreciate it.
Absolutely crazy. I just saw a comment that his wife is raising hell. She needs to. She needs to. She's the one that sounded the alarm. I can't find him. He's not answering. Oh, we found him wrapped up in a rug and plastic. But since he wasn't beat to death, shot, or stabbed, we know he wasn't murdered, so no foul play. You don't know if he was slipped that stuff. You have no idea. You can't just wrap it up like that, and you need to be looking for the people, and maybe they are. You need to be looking for the people that think it's okay to dispose of a dead body as if it's a blockbuster video. That's crazy. That makes zero sense to me. I'm going to put the link up if anybody wants to come up and talk about this. I can't think of a name. I love that YouTube name. Said, I guess he OD'd and wrapped himself up. Jinbug, thank you for the super sticker. Said also at an ATM 5:30 a.m. on camera, and that wasn't him. Somebody was using his card at an ATM, and it wasn't him. So already you have a problem. Nah, I'm not buying that. If the dude took too many drugs and they found him slumped over in an alley, I'd be like, damn. That's bad. So that's bad for you, my friend. But no, not wrapped up in plastic and in a freaking carpet and moved. Somebody was covering this up. If they just didn't give a shit about the guy, they would have just left him there. Ridiculous. Team Dice Stew said, rumors. We are almost neighbors. I live right across the river. Oh, it's True Crime with Shannon. Hello, True Crime with Shannon. What are you thinking?
I think that this is suspicious as hell.
Yeah. Like
Yep.
Stevie, who just left a super sticker, said, I would be doing the same thing. I would want answers. Yeah.
Yep. He either got a hold of some bad drugs on purpose or by accident, but then someone saw him, maybe he OD'd and, someone had to wrap him up. You can't do it when you're dead.
No. And it's one thing, okay, he OD'd. That's awful.
Yeah.
That's awful. I mean, you can't charge him for using drugs. He's dead. But we don't move corpses. I mean, come on.
I know. That's like desecration of a dead body. That's what at least Sarah Wandra's charged with right now.
Well, she's charged with failing to report a death.
Yeah, but there's a whole bunch of though right now that are that have different charges related to all this stuff. But what is up with all these suspicious deaths?
Well, I think every death is suspicious to some point. I mean, unless you're 97 and had a bad heart. I mean, but something like this, I can't believe they would even just come out and say it's not foul play. They need to maybe detail this a little more,
Right. I agree. They could say maybe it's not murder. They don't think it's murder, but something happened between the time that he died and the time that they found him. Period.
Yeah.
That's what they need to investigate.
Exactly.
Yeah,
stupid.
If somebody did something to him. So,
and it happens all the time. What neighborhood are people living in that they say it happens all the time? People ODing? Yeah, it does. People being found in dumpsters, wrapped in plastic and carpet after ODing, people moving a dead body. No, that doesn't happen all the time. Get real.
God, if that happened all the time, I'd be scared to go out.
Yeah, I know. Fine Art on Fire said abuse of a corpse where I'm from is like a life sentence. Here in Washington. It's a it's like a year punishment. Well, I look at the case of Michaela Jones, which there's way more to it than what they're saying. But anyway, as it stands right now, Civvy and Pierce, they're in jail for tampering with a corpse. They moved her body after she died at that house. They're each serving 8 years. Now, there's way more to it. I'm not getting to that right now. We need to do another show for Michaela soon. You can't just move a dead body. It just doesn't work that way. You can't conceal a death. I mean, come on.
No, you can't do that.
No. And it's
That's
just
ridiculous.
irritating AF when people write it off and say, oh, this happens all the time. Where does it happen all the time that somebody goes to throw away their garbage and there's a man in the dumpster wrapped in plastic and carpet?
Yeah, if that happens to you, I want to know where you live so I can stay far away.
And the police say that he did not die there. He was moved there. So somebody knew he was dead or dying in front of them. And it very well could be that someone panicked. But drug dealers aren't really the type to clean up a mess. So if he gets a hold of these drugs and he's doing drugs with these people that are using his bank card and everything, and they see him OD in front of them. YouTube's not going to like this show, by the way. Then they would you not call 911? There is a Good Samaritan law, and it is in Baton Rouge as well. If they called 911, they would have been in no trouble. Why didn't they just leave him there? Why did they go to the lengths to cover it up?
Yeah, they're gonna find more, but that whole phrase "no foul play," man, that just as soon as you hear that, you're like, hell no.
No, that's stupid.
No. So I'm hoping that they still look into like his remains, and then as far as for fingerprints and of course more video evidence, that's where they're gonna find their answer. So this would be the kind of case that I see on that show. I don't know if you've seen that show before, Brooks, and then you all see it. It's all camera stuff. They find it all through surveillance cameras. They solve the case. Those are always.
They already have people on surveillance using his bank card.
There you go. They probably did it. They probably dumped him.
Yeah, that would probably be the dudes that dumped him. They were probably using those bank cards after he died. So, no, there's definitely foul play here. He may not have been murdered, but there's something foul AF. What a dumb thing to say.
Yeah, it's just crap.
Just stupid.
Yeah,
But just such a dumbass thing to say. At least asterisk it and say, look, he wasn't murdered, but we are going to find the people that were on those videos using his bank card. We are going to find why. We're going to find out why they decided to wrap him up like a burrito and go put him in the dumpster.
Yep. I agree.
Yep. So now we get to what's been talked about for a very long time. And we're back to Alex Murdaugh.
Oh,
and I tell you what, Buster was on the Today Show again this morning. So for the people that are saying leave Buster alone, Buster has got a taller tree to climb than this little channel, because it's on every station and they always bring up Stephen Smith. Let me read a couple of comments. Russian Aloha, which I love that YouTube name. She's talking about the video I put up a couple days ago about Randy Murdaugh. She said, I think Randy is just too close to see it. At least he sees his brother is a serial liar, but I think deep down he knows he's a killer too. Once he can put some distance between them, he will see the truth. I agree, and then I disagree a little bit. And we can agree to disagree here. I think he has distanced himself as much as he can from his brother. He seemed to jump ship pretty early on when things were going down. He has a $75,000 lawsuit against him. He wants his money back. I think he's in denial, and I think he will never admit to his brother being a murderer because his words, not mine, were he's trying to restore his family's name. Well, you still have the family name because you're not the murderer. And there are other families in this country that have done some horrible, horrible shit, but they still are powerful as hell.
Yep.
I think he is never, ever going to admit, even if he knows it deep down, he's an attorney. He heard all that. He knows what all that means. He knows what all of that means. Zen Life said, Brooks, why haven't you mentioned Firecrotch and Mags drinking with their kids? Because I've only done a few shows on the Murdaughs, but don't think it wasn't on my list. Some people have said that's what goes on in the South, that is a commonplace, normal thing to happen. No, it's not. No, people do not get their 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids drunk. People in the South are not okay with their kids drinking and driving. This is just another layer of their, I'm better than you. We can do whatever we want. We're the Murdaughs. Your rules do not apply to us. So if my kids want to get drunk at 16 years old, they can because they're Murdaughs. The parents would be drinking with them. Hey, I'm up. Pawpaw, I'm up. You want another cold one? Sure, Dad.
Yep. That's not normal at all.
No. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think there's any connection between Stephen Smith and the Murdaughs? I'm asking everybody. Do you guys see a connection? Because some people get really mad when this is brought up. It's been told to me that there is absolutely no connection. It's already been cleared. I can't find shit anywhere to say that they're not connected. The most recent thing that I have seen is where it says SLED has not said what the connection is. I do not see Alex or his brother Randy giving two shits about Stephen Smith or his family. These people were lower than dog shit to them. They are not the type of people that they would care about. They're not Boy Scouts. They're not do-gooders. But for some reason, Randy himself reached out to Stephen's family to offer his legal services. That is denied heavily now, but you know that when you deny something heavily, it's because you're guilty of it. Also, they went to the car wreck scene, the hit and run scene, the crime scene, the murder scene. Why did those two men go to check that out? Why? Why would they?
There's some involvement. That's got to be the only reason. And I mean, we have to say allegedly, that Buster's involved. And I've seen enough possibility that it is. And SLED's got to reopen, so they seem to be wondering too.
Yeah, they had it closed up as a hit and run. Some people say, well, maybe they went out there because they were trying to sign him up as a client. Well, I mean, nothing happened with that, though. Hit and run, you got to know who did it, right? You got to know who did it. But they opened the case back up while they were investigating the murders of Mags and Pawpaw. Rowena said Randy even got Stephen's iPad and cell phone. That's above and beyond for an ambulance chasing attorney.
Wow.
They did not need to be out there. Rumor spreading around as a new YouTube member. Welcome, welcome. Make sure you check the members tab on the channel. That's where I keep everything updated. Sometimes, some days I don't. Nani said, I think the rumor about Buster being involved is true. Where there's smoke, there's usually fire. Kathy said, was Stephen tutoring Buster with some school subject? I thought I read that somewhere. That is how this was explained, that Stephen was tutoring Buster. Funny thing about that is the kids, for subjects that they had issues with, they had tutors that were paid for. Why would they need Stephen when they have paid for tutors?
Maybe that story that there was some more involvement is true. I mean, you don't want to say that out loud, but y'all get what I'm saying. They said there was more than just a friendship potentially going on there.
That could be. That could be.
You never know.
You never know. And you know what? We don't even have to say allegedly around here. It's being talked about on every mainstream newspaper article. NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox, News Nation. We don't even have to say allegedly. They're doing all the talking for us. Let's look at this really quick. This was on the Today Show. The first hour of the Today Show, I believe this morning. I think it is that new. Buster Murdaugh in the spotlight. And by the way, when people feel sorry for Buster and say, he's lost everything. Yeah, I feel very bad for him for that. I do. His dad, his mom, his brother, he still can use this name to his advantage. Trust me, all is not lost.
Yeah, and I still feel like they should not be these people going up to their house and stuff like that. It's him and his girlfriend. I mean, that's way beyond. I mean, irregardless of if he's involved in something else, I mean, that's like major invasion. So,
Well, that's our media. That's what they do.
They're awful.
They that's what they do. I mean, my God, look what they did to Britney Spears. She shaved her head and beat up her car with an umbrella because they wouldn't leave her alone.
Yep.
They're getting their story. And when someone crosses the line from regular citizen to they have a celebrity status, the way they look at it is all bets are off. So he needs to lay low, stay the hell away from them, get out of Hilton Head, go somewhere else until this dies down. That's really what he needs to do.
Somewhere to go. Yeah, if he's got the finances and the ability, I would go somewhere like way quiet and private. I mean, if he's able.
Was at his father's trial every day. The unmistakable red hair, hard to miss.
Guilty verdict.
Now that Alec Murdaugh has been sent away for life for killing his wife Maggie and youngest son Paul, his oldest son is the only member of the immediate family left. But he's not entirely alone.
Buster's world will never be the same. He does have a very loving family and support group. I can't even imagine to lose everything in your life that you've known, everything in your life that you've ever known.
And it is all happening under a relentless spotlight. On Sunday, according to a police report, Buster Murdaugh called the sheriff's office, telling police he observed a suspicious gray Dodge Challenger outside the residence. Buster's girlfriend said the couple was being followed by the media.
How does Buster feel about your guilty?
But police can do little about the attention that grew intense during the 6-week-long trial, especially after Buster took the stand in his father's defense, describing the moment he learned Maggie and Paul were dead.
I was in shock.
What kind of condition was he in? What was his demeanor?
Yeah, his demeanor was, he was destroyed. He was heartbroken. I walked in the door and saw him and gave him a hug and just broken down.
I imagine when he did come across his dad after the murders of Maggie and Pawpaw, I'm sure he did come across a crazy scene with his dad. I'm sure his dad was just broken. I have not heard any jurors that have been speaking out mention Buster's testimony. I thought he did a great job defending his dad. Has anybody heard any of the jurors that are speaking out say anything about how they were affected by Buster's testimony? I mean, because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I haven't seen nothing either.
Because I am curious as to, I understand what they're saying. The video, they couldn't get around the video. The big fat whopper about the blue lights in the car, the sheriff's like, nope, never happened. I get that, but I'm really curious, and maybe these journalists just don't want to bring up Buster. I don't know, even though it's all over their networks. I'm really curious as to how they took his testimony.
I find it hard to believe if they're willing to go stalk him that they aren't either afraid to bring him up in a question with the juror, unless the juror said they are not speaking of it.
I haven't seen him ask at all. And
Yeah,
any interview I can find where they're talking to the jurors, I want to hear more about what they have to say. And I have never heard that question come out. How did it affect you when Buster took the stand? They're just not mentioning it. I don't know why.
that is
I mean,
interesting.
we know they have no moral compass. So why are they not mentioning Buster?
Facts. Yep.
When the verdict was announced, Buster put his head in his hands. But a bystander outside the court suggested there was even more trouble ahead, as Alec Murdaugh was escorted away by police. He was apparently referring to the 2015 death of Buster's high school.
Okay, this Alex and Buster getting heckled as they were taking Alex away has played every morning on the Today Show. The Today Show is one of the most watched shows in the country. Every morning they bring it up. So I don't know why all these people are like, you need to leave Buster alone. You need to leave Buster alone. Look, it's on the Today Show. It's on NBC Nightly News. It's on CBS Evening News. It's on ABC Nightly News. I'm not doing anything to Buster, but they're really honing this home, this connection between the Murdaughs and Stephen Smith. We don't know that it has anything to do with Buster. How do we know it doesn't have something to do with Pawpaw? We don't know. And SLED is not said. They have not said the connection yet.
School classmate Stephen Smith. Smith's body was found on a rural road a few miles from the Murdaugh's sprawling property. It was ruled a hit and run, according to the pathology report. But Smith's mother doesn't believe it.
It was more than one person that done this, and somebody knows. And they set him up on that road to make it look like a hit and run. I think he was beaten to death.
Authorities reopened the case in 2021 while investigating the murders of Maggie and Paul, although they have not officially named anyone in the Murdaugh family as a suspect.
Looking forward, there are signs the Murdaugh family is not a united front. One of Alec's brothers, Randy, recently spoke with the New York Times, telling a reporter his brother, quote, knows more than what he's saying, that in his opinion, he, quote, is not telling the truth, guys.
I mean, the layers and layers here. Alec Murdaugh still faces all those charges on the financial crimes, but what happens there could affect Buster as well, presumably?
It could potentially, and it's a little unclear what Buster's financial situation is going forward. But if it's any indication, we know that Alec Murdaugh had that staged murder of himself that failed, that he also faces charges, according to his attorney. And his hope was that after his death, his son would get those $10 million from a life insurance policy. Obviously, he had some concerns about the financial future for his oldest son.
All right, Stephanie, thank you very much.
Joy, since Joy brought it up, I'm going to comment on it. Joy says, Randy is hiding something, I think. you know, I'm not going to say that he's so much hiding something, but I think he's not telling something because I don't believe for a minute that the people in that law firm did not know about settlements being skimmed, stolen, cut into, people getting funny with the math. I don't believe that for a minute. It happens day after day after day after day in personal injury law firms. People are going to have to watch themselves when they start signing on the bottom line in Ohio about what has happened with the train derailment. These personal injury law firms, they will sign you up for nothing. They will work for free until they settle it. Now, when they settle it, they will take 30, 40, 50%, probably some more fees on top of that. They will tell these people, oh, we got taxed a little harder here. No, this exactly, Snazzy. This amount of embezzlement did not go unnoticed for over a decade. But when suddenly your Bubba, your bro, Alec, is all over the national news, then it's time to jump ship and separate yourself from him. And the best way to do it is just pull out some random settlement sheets and we'll get rid of him that way. That's how we're going to separate ourselves from him in this. And they could probably do it to any attorney in that firm. Elaine said the whole law firm was corrupt. They are really big about making this all about Alex. It's just Alex. He's the bad apple. No. Hell no.
Yeah, I don't believe that either. I think he may have been the worst.
I don't even think he was the worst.
No, you think I mean, I don't know about the smaller folks, like their administrative staff, but the lawyers, I think they got stuff going on.
Hell yeah. They have to file taxes at that law firm. They don't use TurboTax. No, they have their own accountants that know exactly what the hell's going on around there.
Oh, they're part of it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, you think over all this time, no accountant, no CPA said, I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding this settlement sheet. No, they knew. They knew. They had to have known. That's crazy. And Alex and all the things that he's done doesn't hold a candle to his dad, his grandpa, his great grandfather. There was a story that came out the other day about a guy, back in the day when people could just make a phone call and take care of things a certain way. Guy had gotten into some trouble. It was Alex's dad or grandpa called this guy, said, make this go away. He works his magic. He makes his phone calls. He makes it go away. He says, what do I owe you? He said, don't worry about it. It was just a favor. He goes, well, if you ever need to kill a man, bring him to my county. Now, they don't know if this was said as a joke, if this was serious, but it was said nonetheless. So yeah, this has been going on for generations, decades, the better part of a century.
Well, those boys were brought up the same way probably the one like Alec and all them were. They got it whatever they wanted, and we've seen some of them specials. I know y'all were watching them too. They're saying that those boys did whatever they wanted, basically. So this is going to be a whole new world for Buster. I think in certain ways. I think.
What a good point, Shannon. You're exactly right. The entitlement train is done. It's done. It's over. Because it's been said on more than one occasion that because Buster and Pawpaw are Murdaughs, that name actually meant more to Maggie than it did to Alec in certain ways. And she was really big about not disciplining her boys. When they were 3, 4, 5 years old, they were calling people mofos. They were telling people to get bent, if you know what I mean, when they were little guys. And they would be like, well, that's a Murdaugh for you. They just do whatever they want to do.
Yep.
You know, and this case is really hard because the victims, Maggie and Pawpaw, not talking about any of the other victims, they're just not sympathetic characters. When you watched that Netflix series and you heard about how Paul was acting on that boat, what happened to all those kids, how he treated his own girlfriend, it's tough to shed a tear. I'll put it that way. It's tough to shed a tear. News Nation went hard about the Stephen Smith case last night. Went hard. They're not talking so much about Gloria Satterfield because they know that that money situation is going to work itself out one way or another. Gloria's son does not believe she was murdered. Her attorney says, nah, she wasn't murdered. They wouldn't have sent her off in an ambulance alive, if you know what I mean. She'd have been dead. Mallory, we know what happened there. Tinsley's taking care of that, supposedly. I think it goes to trial in August. So what we have sitting on the burner, sizzling and boiling, is Stephen Smith. And this is the big thing. This is what they're talking about every night and every morning.
Bring in Chief Kenneth Kinsey. He is a crime scene investigator and the state's forensic expert witness. You'll remember him from the trial. He was the last witness before closing arguments were made. Take a look at this.
But explain for the jury, if someone is shooting down, as we just demonstrated a moment ago here in the doorway, you're leaning out, the shooter is shooting down. How do pellets get embedded into the door frame up here? How is that possible?
I think it's impossible myself. Physics don't work that way unless you're shooting into a trampoline or a huge piece of steel, and then you may have a pellet deflected back on you. It happens many times, especially when we're shooting steel targets, but not at that velocity. It will not sink into the door frame, and it definitely will not dent that door with what I documented.
I'm also joined by Steve Peterson, a former investigative consultant for Stephen Smith's family. You'll remember Stephen was a classmate of Buster's who was found dead in the road in 2015 after what the coroner called a hit and run. Smith's case was reopened after new evidence was found at Moselle during the investigation into the deaths of Maggie and Paul. All right, Kenny and Steve, thank you both for being with us tonight.
See what I'm talking about? This isn't going away anytime soon. The minute they bring up Stephen Smith, they go, a former classmate of Buster's, a former classmate of Buster's. They don't just say the case of Stephen Smith has been reopened. New evidence was found during the investigation of Maggie and Paul. They don't do that. They always loop Buster in. Every one of these, they always loop Buster in.
We really appreciate it. I want to start with you, Kenny. You really know the Murdaugh case inside and out. Your testimony was very, very vital to the trial. We all saw it. I know you're not an expert on the Stephen Smith case, but I'm curious because you know so much about what happened with the murders of Maggie and Paul. Do you think, based on your experience, that we're now going to see some movement, Kenny, with the Stephen Smith case?
Brian, I definitely think you're going to see some movement with the investigation. But as we spoke earlier, I'm not familiar with a lot of the evidence in that case, so I don't know which direction it's going or what path it might take. But I do believe the authorities are taking it seriously, and we should see some movement with that. There's already behind-the-scenes movement. I don't have an update on that. I'm not privy to that information, but I do believe you've got some serious investigators that are working that.
Yeah, that is the word, that there's this behind-the-scenes movement. Steve, maybe you can elaborate a little more. Do we know where the investigation stands right now? Is it still very active?
Well, I don't know how active it is. It was active, quite active, probably 6-8 months after Maggie and Paul's death. And then it seemed to go cold again. So the issue became, what physical evidence exists still? I figure Stephen Smith was killed nearly 8 years ago now. So when this investigation kicked off, when SLED announced that they're going to reopen it based on evidence discovered at the murder scene, back then it was 6 years old. So how long does this physical evidence exist? Multiple agencies have been involved investigating Stephen's death. And every time another agency gets involved, it appears that crucial evidence disappears. It goes missing. It gets misplaced. It's misfiled. So sadly, maybe that's why for 6 years nothing happened. And maybe now that SLED is on top of this thing, and they've got some pretty good leads. When I was working with them on this, we had developed several really what I would consider very credible leads. And I'm not sure exactly where they are with that at this moment.
Kenny, it's interesting. SLED said in a statement.
All right, this is just me. I'm not making any accusations. This is just my opinion. I think they've had credible leads regarding the death of Stephen Smith since it happened. I think in their small circle, they decided to ignore those leads. But when this happened, it blew the lid wide off of it. Right off of it is what I think.
In a statement that the investigation into Stephen's death was based on information gathered during the double murder investigation, and then the trial that you were a part of. Any idea what that might mean, Kenny? What part of the double murder it was that led them to information about Stephen Smith?
I do not know, Brian. I could only theorize. You've got several prongs here involved, and everyone knows that there are more tentacles on this thing than an octopus. And I imagine that it's going in so many different directions, not just Stephen's death scene, but also in a couple other directions. As I said, I'm not privy to that information, but I do hear the chatter and the scuttlebutt. And I do know that the authorities are working in several different directions. And as important as the actual work in several different directions, they've taken a sharp look at it. And I truly believe you've got men and women there that believe in this investigation. And like I said, I don't know. I'm not involved in that, but
I have to look at this comment that Rowena left. She said people aren't scared anymore. They aren't scared anymore. That is such a huge thing to say. The reign of terror that this family has had on that area for so long is gone now. It was even said when Stephen died, when they talked about the Murdaughs, they said Buster is a Murdaugh. When they were looking for Mallory Beach, they said to SLED, good luck, he's a Murdaugh. They were at the hospital doing damage control. They weren't there worried about anyone's well-being. They were doing damage control, and they were trying to pin this on another kid.
do believe they are actively working, trying to resolve this situation.
I mean, you were so amazing during the Murdaugh trial, Kenny. I mean, could you possibly help with this other case? Do you have any advice for them? Could you get involved with your expertise?
Brian, like I said, I don't know the information. All I could say is that if I can help, I would help. If asked, I would be more than happy. As we spoke earlier.
Why is Brian Enton pimping this guy out? This guy was already on national television testifying at the last trial. Why is he like, what? He's like begging this guy to help. What the hell? Leave him alone.
We're very competent private investigators on this, greatly credentialed. I take them serious at their word, and I would be willing to extend a hand if there's something that I could do. But I don't walk on water, but I'll never tell anybody no if it means, trying to help.
Steve, there's been so much talk about Buster and the possible connection that he has to this and to Stephen Smith. Do we know how much they interacted when Stephen Smith was alive?
Well, they went to high school together and they were on baseball teams together. They interacted in a limited social fashion. And there was a lot of rumors that they had something beyond a social relationship. Stephen was an openly gay young man, and the rumors were that Buster and he had a relationship. And try as we may to prove that, we were unable to. I was unable to find any connection. In fact, when I was dealing and working with SLED on this, SLED assured me that they had exploited all telecommunication devices associated with both Stephen and Buster. They could find no connection, no nexus to the two of them. So,
well, then who could it be, and why do they keep bringing Buster up? If they can't find a connection, with the exception of being classmates, why does it keep being brought up? Then what is the connection? Alex and Randy went to the scene of the accident. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the crime scene, I'm going to say. Randy reached out to Stephen's mother to offer their help. They said something was found in this investigation. Well, we know they have Paul's phone. They have Maggie's phone. What else could it be? Something of Stephen's at the house? Hell, I don't know. They found something.
It seems odd that they would have had a relationship. It seems unlikely they would have had a relationship. We did come down with two basic theories on what happened to Stephen. One involved the potential involvement of the Murdaugh family, and the other involved two individuals who are not related at all to the Murdaugh family. And so we were pursuing these two separate and different leads. And since SLED had the ability and the possession of the telecommunication devices, they have subpoena power, they have different authority, obviously, than an investigator would. They pursued that aspect, and they assured me they couldn't find the connection between Buster. They told me that, they had conclusive proof that Paul was not even in the county the night Stephen was killed. I have no reason to doubt them.
Yeah, a lot of this just seems like is rumor at this point. Obviously, there's a lot more investigating to do. I just got to ask you real quick, Kenny, because you were under the spotlight in that trial. The jurors wanted to meet you when it was over. You went and met them. How are you doing now? I mean, you are under so much pressure. Have you had a chance to take a break?
Okay, Paul wasn't in the county. They can't find a connection to Buster. Well, then what is it? Something in investigating the murders of Maggie and Paul reopened Stephen's case.
Well, that's the question, though. When they said they didn't find any connection to Buster or Paw, was this before all this can of worms?
Exactly. And this guy doesn't work for SLED. This guy doesn't know. Just because someone's like, yeah, we've been looking, but we can't find it yet. They don't just open or reopen investigations just cuz. They came across something that was enough to get that budget open again.
Yep.
And now here's Enton bugging Kenny again.
Brian, I'll start with my team first. As I've mentioned, my team here at home, I couldn't have taken myself away from my duties for 5 or 6 weeks without having a great team here at home. The AG's office were second to none. The SLED Low Country agents and the laboratory, SLED in general, in my opinion, did a great job. They welcomed me back, and they were so helpful in my examination of the evidence. The jurors are my heroes. And as I said, I wouldn't question their verdict one way or the other. I'm so glad I didn't have to make that choice. But it ripped my heart out in a good way when they wanted to meet me that morning. That's never happened in my career. And they thanked me. And
yeah, it's very unusual. Yeah.
That means more than anyone could ever know. But I wanted to thank them. They wanted to thank me. But definitely, I didn't deserve a thank you because they put their life on hold for 6 weeks. And for that, we all owe them a debt.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Kenny and Steve, thank you both for your time tonight. We appreciate you coming on. I'm sure we'll be in touch as these other cases hopefully start to unravel.
Yeah, Enton wasn't interested in that. He's like, they put their lives on hold for 6 weeks. There's Enton. Yep. That's not what he wants to hear. He wants to hear the down and dirty with Buster. He wants to hear if Kenny's going to be helping out Sled. He wants to hear the short and curlies. He doesn't want to hear all that thanking people for their service. He's not down with that. So,
Well,
Shannon,
he's covering for Ashley Banfield, though, so you have to figure which show he's covering for.
why isn't he wearing beige?
Well, that we need to ask him. We should ask him that. We can on Twitter and go, "Hey, you're supposed to wear beige when you're on Ashley's show," Brian.
Yeah, when you're covering for Banfield, you better find some shade of beige, whether it's an ivory, a khaki, a tan, a champagne. You have to find a color of beige.
Yep. I only think he has dark suits though, so he's better when he covers for Dan or Cuomo.
Fine by me, because that Banfield stuff was driving me insane.
Yeah, she gets finally taking a break, I guess, huh?
Yeah, get Enton out of the snow. Let him do some real work. So then this also comes up, which I just think is just great. Did you know that the prosecuting attorney, Creighton Waters, he's a real Renaissance man. Did you know that, Shannon?
No.
Not only is he a crime fighter, not only is he a prosecutor, he also has an Eagles cover band.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there he is.
On the right there?
That'd be him. Looks like Richard Dreyfuss. He is the lead guitarist, I believe, for Soul Purpose.
Wow.
Yeah. Before we go, we're going to hear a little bit of this.
All right. Look at him rocking that guitar.
A long time ago, what a woman can do to your soul. Oh, but she can't take you anyway. You don't already know how to go. I've got a peaceful, easy feeling. I know you won't let me down, 'cause I'm already standing on the ground.
Wow, was that him jamming on the guitar there?
Yeah, very interesting. I'm a big Eagles fan. That's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. Not
It
too
was
bad.
awesome. Like I said, a real Renaissance man. Just fighting crime during the day, slapping the guitar at night. I'm very impressed. It takes what? And when people cover Eagles songs, I am I criticize a lot because the Eagles are one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They are. All right, Shan, I appreciate you coming up, and I'm going to start winding it down. I think we've done our week recap.
That's awesome. You have a great rest of the day, Brooks.
You too, hun. I will see you over in Discord or one of the Facebook groups.
I will see you there.
All right. Let's give a big round of applause to True Crime with Shannon. I love when she comes up and goes back and forth about these crazy cases with me. So, Madalina, definitely huge concern, big time. I still cannot believe what came out in that warrant. Not just that Diana would contact a relative and say, I need you to smuggle us. That doesn't really surprise me. But the fact that, and I'll put it up again, the fact that the person's phone records revealed multiple calls to phone numbers belonging to unidentified targets involved in ongoing T3 trafficking investigations. That's pretty worrisome in my book. As far as Bushy being OCD, that is the least of his problems. That is the least of his problems. I'm not going to spend too much time thinking about that. This Nathan Millard situation, I'm not really down with the no foul play because he wasn't beat to death, no internal injuries, wasn't shot, wasn't stabbed, but was found in a dumpster, rolled up in plastic and carpet because, hey, that's just what drug people do. Not a big deal. It happens every day is what they're trying to tell us. I think it's disgusting. And, of course, Murdaugh. We're going to continue to follow all the crazy aftermath that Alex left behind before he went to the big house. That being said, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Don't do anything to get you in the big house, and I'll see you over in Discord or one of the Facebook groups. Check the channel every so often because we're probably going to get a couple of lives in this weekend. See you guys around. You guys are the best. Have a great weekend.